check.
Let's call it to order.
Yeah. I just want to make sure the mic.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna be hanging out behind you with the awards whenever you're ready, okay?
Good morning. Welcome. It's a little after 9 o'clock, and I call the annual meeting of the Alto Lakes Golf and Country Club to order. Before we move forward, all of the commission chairs or anyone representing the commission today, I'd like to sit up at this table right up here so that in the Q&A session you'll be available to people to take pot shots at and you can answer their questions. So if you could move up here at some point, that would be great. And before we move forward, I'm going to note one change in the format that we've made for this year. At the end of last year's meeting, the members were asked if they would like to eliminate oral commission reports. There was an overwhelming yes. So this year, our outside accountant, Rick Miller, will deliver a presentation of our audited financials. But all other commission reports have been included on the club's website for your review. Commission representatives, which I'm talking about right here, General Manager Tom Blumenball, other board members, and I will be present and available to answer your questions in the Q&A session later on in the agenda. Now, once again this year, he was so good last year, I want to introduce Mike Robinson, who's a retired Lutheran pastor and an Alto member who will deliver the invocation. Mike?
I don't know how good I was last year. I hope God appreciated it. But anyway, it's great to be here this morning. You know, back in Texas, we had a saying, you may have had it here in New Mexico, when's the best time to plant a tree? Well, the answer is 20 years ago. And the second best answer is today. Every time we come up here from San Antonio, what strikes me the most are all the trees. We don't have anything like this where I live, and it's absolutely beautiful. But it turns out that trees are important, not only for us who enjoy them, but if you read your Bible, you will find out that trees are everywhere in Scripture. And 99.99% of the time, a few occasions, but most of the time, they're mentioned in a favorable way. They represent blessings, they represent God's goodness, they represent obviously strength and stability, and they appear right in the very beginning of Scripture in Genesis and at the very end of Scripture in Revelation with the tree of life that will produce its goodness for all of us. We look at these trees and they should be a reminder of how much we've been blessed and all that we have thankfulness for. That's the theme of my prayer for this morning. Heavenly Father, we have so much to be thankful for, more than we realize. We wake up here and we see the beauty of this club, and yet we look out and we see all the people who are working so hard to keep it that way. This morning I woke up and I saw the groundskeepers out there moving the flags. We see the water that just seems to magically come on the greens. We know it takes so much to make this club work. We thank you for the wonderful staff that we have who is always behind the scenes and yet making life for us such a blessing. We thank you for the leadership of this club. We look outside and we see these new buildings going up, and we can't wait to get into these new pools. And just the other day, I saw them haul off 50 golf carts. I don't know where they were taking them, but somehow that just seemed to magically happen. Lord, we know it's not magic. We know it's the dedication of our staff, of our leadership, of the board, and for them we thank you. And finally, Lord, yesterday I think we all got a real wake-up call watching the helicopter picking up water from Lake Alto, fighting that fire just to the south of us. Help us to always be mindful of all that we do, especially when it's so dry and so hot and so windy that we do everything we can to help preserve this blessing that you have given to us. Now watch over this meeting. We thank you for our leaders, and we thank you for those whom we are about to elect. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Mike. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty, justice for all. Tom Blumendahl will now make some introductions.
What a turnout. I'm telling you, that tells you there's no apathy at Alto Lakes Golf and Country Club. So, Board of Directors, Mr. John Stern, President, Miss Tony Pope. Is Tony here? Oh, Tony's in Maryland. All right. Mr. Richie Hood, please stand. Barney Adams, please stand. Miss Cindy Stowe. Davis Dalton. Mr. Ray Brown. Mr. Bruce Ellis. And Mr. Scott Dickerson. Let's have these people need to show their appreciation. Thank you. All right, the department managers. These are the people that get this set up, get the tablecloths pressed to get them down, get the pastries and the coffee up, everything that's involved with everything you do every day. Of course, my name is Tom Blumendahl. I'm the general manager of the club. Mr. Craig Maldonado. And will you guys this year come up and stand up here when I call your name so you guys can see? I know you know who Craig is. Craig is a native son here, and he's doing a great job. All right. Miss Gina Keefe, Controller, CFO. This lady needs a round of applause. Mr. John Rogers, Director of Golf. Glenn Denny, Golf Course Superintendent. Wow, Glenn can clean up pretty good. Never seen him without a hat on. Okay, all right. There's a reason, right? There's a reason. Damian Alvarado, Executive Chef. Now this guy is killing it. He's the best. He's the best for what we do here that we could possibly have. Valerie Aguilar. Now Valerie stepped into, she's not feeling well, but she stepped in and took over for a legend, Teresa Gibson. And so there's difference of style, there's difference of approach. She is doing an excellent job too. And so I know she's probably watching on YouTube Live. Let's give her a big hand. Mr. Frank Gonzalez. The world isn't right if Frank's not here. And so Frank, thank you. We appreciate you very much. Vanessa Henderson. She's at Outlaw working. Vanessa has taken Outlaw to another level. I don't think I've had any more praise for any individual person than Vanessa this year. She has taken it and really ran with it. So she's a very great asset. Daniel Ferreira. Daniel Round. All right. He's the beverage manager for the club. Katrina Frenzoy. She looks like she's not old enough to be out after midnight, but she is, and she's doing an excellent job. Miss Maggie Fizz. All right. I would take 10 minutes to read off everything that Maggie does, but she does everything well. And then Mr. Bobby Luster. He's not just a talented piano player from Alabama. We have accomplished more deferred maintenance with Bobby being here because he's very, very multi-talented. And so thanks, Bobby. All right. All right. We also have people that aren't department heads. Kirk Taylor in the golf department. Kirk has been a wonderful addition. Mr. Martin Espinosa, golf professional over at Outlaw. Louis Magana. Louis has worked at this club for years and years and years. Then he thought that he wanted to go and do something else. And then shortly he was back. And so he's the executive sous chef, great employee. Jose Mendoza, kitchen manager over at Outlaw. You know, he is developed into a really, really great asset for us. J.V. Vieja, I think I'm saying that right. He is the new assistant superintendent. We had no assistant superintendent for several years, and he has stepped in and making a big difference and doing a great job. I think anybody that goes into the office probably knows Abby Navarez. Abby started out as just straight receptionist, and she's grown into kind of a office and accounting manager, ACC administrator. Sharice Wadsworth. If I come to work someday and Sharice is not here, I'm not going to go. I'm not going to know what to do. So she's been a staple here for many years, and she's very beloved by everyone. Caleb, how many people have had contact with Caleb? That young man's right back yonder. Raise your hand, Caleb. He's been a wonderful addition to the club. IT expertise, just handles a lot of the advertising stuff we do. And I know some of that advertising has been challenged, as far as, And so we're listening, and we'll be making some adjustments. Eric Simonson. Where's Eric? He's behind the board, too. Eric has been the guy that's people call up and say, how do I turn on my computer? So Eric walks them through it. So. And Miss Paula Waltrus. She is accounting, HR manager. Again, one of those people that we just cannot operate without. So a big round of applause to all of our staff, all our department heads. Thank you so much. These are the people that actually get the work done. A lot of times people come up and pat me on the back, and I just like, well, you need to go pat all these people on the back because they're the one doing it. So anyway, thank you.
A little bit of housekeeping. In front of you, you have the minutes from last year, June 25th, 2022. I would entertain a motion from the audience to approve those minutes. Do I have a motion to approve? Let's hear your amendment, please. Could you take a mic? Could you grab a microphone from Caleb, please?
Yeah, John, I'm reading your opening statement in last year's minutes, and you seem to indicate in that statement that there was going to be a pause on the pool project to focus just on the pool side and postpone the work on some of the other items, fitness center, et cetera. That's in your statement.
Correct.
Okay. When I go, though, to Ken's commission report on construction, there is a item in there that says a team was put together, or a team was put together. So, and that team came up with a bid of 7.5 million. So I'm having trouble reconciling the timeline of your opening statement, which was a pause in getting bids, and Ken's statement at the same meeting that a bid was in fact obtained.
We had.
So my question is simply, if there's a missed timeline in there, I'd like it to be reflected in the minutes.
Yeah,
John.
I don't think there was. There was a bid, and Ken can correct me if I'm saying this improperly, but there was a bid, and when we came to the annual meeting, we decided that we weren't going forward with that bid until we had a couple other competitive bids. So thereafter, this slowed things down a bit, but thereafter we had 2 competitive bids before we finalized back to the original bid. Does that answer your question, Ron?
It does, although my memory, which isn't great,
Nor is mine.
I can't recall that information was actually presented at the meeting.
It was.
I
It
believe
was.
Ken talked about maybe a $4 million figure at that time. I
No,
don't
there was
remember us-
there was not a $4 million figure at the time. At the time of the meeting, it was about a $7.5 million figure, I believe. Am I correct, Ken? And then we put everything on pause except for the pool part, because we decided that to give the members full transparency and make sure we were doing this properly, we put it out for additional bids. And that's what slowed down the project a little bit, and is probably why the project is not completed today.
Okay, thank you, John.
Tom reminds me, there was also a member vote whether to go ahead with just the pool or to go ahead with the pool and the fitness center, and that was conducted after the annual meeting last year. Ron? Do I have a second to approve the minutes? All in favor, raise your hands. Opposed, raise your hands. Motion passes. It has truly been my honor to serve as president of Alto Lakes Golf and Country Club for the past 2 years, and as a member of the board of directors for the past 6 years. When I come to the end of any experience, there is always a mixture of emotions. Sadness that what I have come to enjoy will no longer be there, but there's also the excitement of being able to incorporate the vast amount of new knowledge into my next project or adventure, whatever it may be. I'm not going to spend time reviewing the accomplishments of our board during the past 6 years. I listed many of these in my final letter, and they are also listed on the screen behind me. Oh, I guess they're not, Eric. Were you going to list them on the screen behind me? What I want to do today is give thanks. First, I cannot thank my fellow board of directors, not just these guys, but also all the other directors I have served with over the past 6 years, for their commitment to this club, their donated time, and for all their hard work to ensure our club's success. Our group has not always agreed, but the board has always come to a consensus for what we considered best for Alto. I want to emphasize that the board of directors are volunteers, are not paid for keeping our club rolling along, and do not receive any compensation other than a lot of self-satisfaction, admittedly some aggravation, and a few breakfasts before our meetings. I thank each and every one of you, and I'll certainly miss our camaraderie. Thank you. Second, thank you to all commission and committee chairs and the commission and committee members for all of your hard work. And I notice one of our commission members, Steve Morris, is in the audience, who ought to be sitting up here for people to take pot shots at him later. This year, I would like to single out two commissions that have been particularly busy. The Construction Commission, led by Ken Wall, has done an outstanding job of overseeing the construction of our pool and fitness center. Without them, I don't know where we would be. I also want to highlight the efforts of our Ad Hoc Covenants Commission, led by Davis Dalton. These commission members have spent countless hours putting together revised covenants that have been approved by the board. The only thing keeping these covenants from going out to the members for approval is nailing down the procedural process, which the commission and the staff need to have exactly right so the club is not subject to challenge. Next, deserving tremendous thanks is our general manager, Tom Blumendahl. Our assistant manager, Craig Maldonado, and all the rest of our staff. Without our terrific employees, our club would be nothing. I was a member of the board that interviewed and hired Tom several years ago. And I can honestly say that Tom's hiring was one of the best, if not the best decision made that year. Tom is truly a workhorse, and I have witnessed this directly. 9 to 5 is not in his vocabulary. I can always find Tom, and he responds on weekends, evenings, and vacations. Tom is also a visionary. When I first came before our members 6 years ago at Meet the Candidates Night, what I stated my goal to be was to help ensure that this club is better 3, 5, 10 years from then. Tom's visions and flexibility have certainly helped us achieve this goal. The one constant that I have seen is that if we are standing still, we are not moving forward. Alto is not the same place it was 6 years ago, and under good management and direction, it will not be the same place 6 years from now. Now, before I continue, all of us know how Tom likes to work the dining room and field your questions. No problem about that. And I realize that Tom does not always feel comfortable with being put on the spot. So one of my fellow directors sitting at that table suggested I present Tom with something to help in those trying moments when he needs a quick answer. Most of you probably remember this from your childhood, a magic 8-ball with appropriate answers to all questions. For instance, if I ask, will the weather be nice tonight? My answer is, you can rely on it. If Tom carries this around with him, he should never be tongue-tied again. Last but not least, I give thanks to our members. I have said this before. The real value of this club is its members. Your skills, talents, personalities, and sense of fun and enjoyment. I can't begin to count the number of people I have met and become friends with due to my service on the board. All of you have enriched my life, and many of you have risen to the occasion when called upon the club for help. Your ongoing support of club initiatives to build a better community is incredible. Thank you, and now it is time for our club's accountant, Rick Miller, to present the audited financials. Rick?
Good morning, all. It's a pleasure to be here. I am Rick Miller, an audit partner with Lauterbach Borschow in El Paso, Texas. And this is Lauren Aguilar, who's an audit manager. She's the manager on the engagement, and she's going to go through the details of the presentation, but wanted just to introduce myself and her. It's a pleasure to have the opportunity to address the membership. And it was during our work here over the last few years, it's always been a pleasure to work with the staff. They've been very cooperative and dedicated to providing us our answers to our questions, and done so on a very timely basis. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Lauren and let her go through a brief presentation on the audited financials. Lauren?
Good morning, everyone. Excuse my voice. The Ruidoso allergies have not been kind to my body today. So, so as Rick said, we completed our audit as of the March 31st, 2023 fiscal year end. Just to give a little bit of background of what the scope is of what a financial audit looks at, we are primarily looking at the balances as of that date and for the previous year, and if they are in accordance with accounting standards. So if they were following the proper accounting standards and all the balances are being properly disclosed. We also ensure that all the controls around the accounting process are in place and are sufficient. And like I said, primarily looking at the fiscal year in review. So we did have an unmodified opinion for our audit. That means a clean audit opinion. We did not have any corrections, findings, etc. And we had no issues that we found with the controls around the accounting process at the club. So I was told that the financial statements were made available online. So I'm gonna do a very quick, brief overview, financial highlights, and then we'll open it up to questions at the end. So we could go to the next slide, please. So on the screen, hopefully you guys read it, it's a little small, is the assets, so for the balance sheet as of March 31st, 2023. So the club's assets as of the end of the year were $35,599,942. So a couple again of just highlights of changes from the prior year. So obviously that's an increase. Basically all of that increase was in property and equipment due to the about $3.6 million increase there due to the new pool and fitness center. That was paid. You'll notice also a reduction of about $1 million in investments. Less investments were purchased from the prior year to help cover those costs. Next slide, please. And this slide is the liabilities and equity. So again, the primary change here, most of the balances stayed consistent with prior year, but there was a $2 million increase of new debt that was taken out for the new pool and fitness center. Next slide. So the statement of operations, so I'll kind of read out some of these numbers. So the total revenue for the fiscal year into 2023 was just over $11 million. And the expenses were just about 11.2, just short of $11.3 million. So that led to an operating loss before depreciation of approximately $250,000 for the year into 2023. Then of course we take out more of the non-cash, non-operation items such as depreciation, interest income, etc. And at the end it was a net loss of about $1.5 million for the year into 2023. In comparison to prior year, it's a little lower, but I think as everyone's kind of felt in their pocketbooks, inflation, raised cost, raised salaries is the primary drive behind those. And of course, we do have the new line item for the new concerts and events department, which took effect in this fiscal year. Next slide. So this is the statement of cash flows. So the net cash used by operating activities was about a loss of $85,000. Again, that was due to increased cost. The net cash to use in investings was about $4 million, and again, that's due to the pool and fitness center, all of the expenditures there. But the net cash provided by financing activities was about $4.6 million. Most of the increase there was related to the new debt that was taken in. So that your net cash actually increased by about $616,000 from the prior year. Next slide. And this is just a breakdown of the statement of cash flows for the operating side specifically. It basically is a reconciliation from your net loss to your cash used by operating activities. And again, the highest item there is depreciation. Next slide. So after the primary financial statements, the rest of the pages of our report are supporting footnotes, basically. So it provides further details about the balances, the basics of the accounting policies, what accounting policies are in place at the club, and then there are also individual statements, profit and loss statements for each of the departments. So those are available online. Next slide. So again, just wanted to keep it brief, high-level financial highlights, and now just kind of want to open it up for any questions. Yes.
Steve, we'll get you a
The
mic.
mic, yeah.
Here you go.
Could you explain for us uneducated members how the member equity increased and the financial statements show an operating loss of $1.5 million?
Great question. So, yeah, so the members' equity did increase by about $1.2 million. So some of that is the restricted funds for the capital improvement that are withheld each year, so that helps increase. That's not considered on the operating profit and loss statement. Basically, it's all balance sheet. And so that's one of the items that helped increase members' equity.
So could I add a little to that? I'm sorry.
Yes,
The payments that we call dues
correct.
don't all go into revenue. Some of that is separated out into the capital fund and the water
Correct.
delivery fund and several others.
Correct.
Does that ever get counted into revenue?
To my understanding, no. So on the members' equity, there's a balance there called restricted funds. And so those are separated out because they have to be used for a specific reason. And so they're separated out on the balance sheet so that it's clear of how much is set aside that has to be used for those capital improvements.
So the reason our member equity increased, what you mentioned, is the portion of the dues payment we make that goes into those funds exceeded the operating loss that we had.
I
So
believe
the revenue taken in by the country club last year was actually more than the total cost of operating it.
I believe so, yes. So this year's members' equity will also be affected by obviously prior year's net income as well, which was better than this year. So that also helped offset it. So
Thank you.
correct, no problem.
Bobby.
Over here.
Where we at?
Thank you. My question is, you mentioned the new debt, the $2 million that we're taking on for the pool. When do those payments start? How much are they? And who is the obligation owed to?
That's a great question. So for the debts, my understanding is that obviously there's two different ones, so they have different terms. So the one line of credit for $1 million, the payments there, I know some of the payments start in 2024, if I'm correct. And then so each of them have different terms, but they could start as early as 2024. And the obligations, you remind me, they are with Citibank. Was that what you were asking? Yeah, they were with Citibank. So there's a line of credit that's currently at $1 million as of March 31st, and then another note payable also with Citibank that's at just a little over $1 million also with them. Come back.
So what is the actual note payment on the term debt, it sounds like? And then will the line of credit of $1 million, how will that be repaid? And is that going to be flipped into a term debt? Or will it be an ongoing open line of credit that the club will have use of in the future?
That's a great question. So for the note payable, that's just over $1 million. As it's set now, draws have been taken out, so it's not technically at the full balance yet. I believe that one allows up to $3.25 million, so they haven't taken out the full balance yet. If the full balance were to be taken out, the payments that would occur would be monthly payments of around $49,000 once those payments kicked in. For the line of credit, that's on a year-to-year basis, basically, and so it could be renewed every year, or at management's discretion, it could be changed into a note payable. That would have to be a future decision. But currently, it's just a year-to-year line of credit.
Okay, so actually, the actual note amount that you're talking about is not $1 million, it's actually $3.2 million, is that correct?
For the note payable, yes. They've taken out just over $1 million so far, but it could go up to as much as 3.25.
So it's basically a construction note?
Correct, yes.
Okay. And when will those payments start again? If
So-
it's up to the 3.2, but first of all, if it goes up to the 3.2, you said it'd be about 49,000?
Correct.
And when would those payments start?
Those would start, I believe, in 2024.
2024. And do we anticipate that the full 3.25 million would be drawn?
I'll leave that up to management, yes. Yes.
The answer was yes. Okay. And then the $1 million, because in the past, I don't believe, when I was on the board, we did not have a line of credit. So what are those funds actually being used for? Is it general operating expenses? What is it being
Those
used
are
for?
also for the pool and fitness center. Both of those loans are for the pool and fitness center.
Okay, so in essence, the pool cost as far as debt is approximately $4.25 million, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And what would the interest payments be on that line of credit when drawn?
That is a great question. 360 days divided by the... 2 points over prime, I believe, was that correct? Yeah, 2 points over prime, so it would matter, I guess, what prime is at the time that the payment starts. Yeah.
What's the cap? So they said that it's prime plus 2%, and there is a cap of what?
The cap's on the loan, not the line of credit, but it's on the...
Oh, the cap's on the loan. The line of credit is 2%. Okay.
Okay. Okay, they said it's capped at 8% for everybody's information.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Just pass it back. Any other questions? No? All right, well, thank you very much, and if you have anything else further, please reach out. Thank you.
All right. One thing that we kind of rearranged in the agenda is the recognition of our employees and their years of tenure, and then also the Employee of the Year. So I'm going to address that before I get into my comments. So, 5-year anniversary. Mr. Mike Brumlow, Alto Grounds. Is Mike here? Mike's probably out working. Here he comes. A lot of times you guys, you golfers see him out there working, but a lot of people don't see these people. And they need to be recognized, and they need to be faces that you are familiar with. So Mike, 5-year anniversary. Thanks for all your service. Hopefully we'll be handing you plaques up to 25 years. So thank you. All right. Mr. Craig Maldonado, Assistant General Manager. It seems like Craig's been around a lot longer than that, doesn't it?
Feels that way.
He said it feels that way, too. All right. Thanks, Craig. Appreciate it. Now, with the plaque, there's also a little propina and an envelope behind it for their service also. So, Philip Hernandez, Outlaw Grounds. All right. Philip is working, so we'll move on to the next category, which is, one more 5-year. And this one I really feel good about. Pablo, come on up here, man. Pablo Reyes. Pablo has turned into a hand. I was a little worried about the boy at a certain point in his tenure, but he's stepped up and he's become one of our best. So, Pablo, thank you. All right, 10-year anniversary is Cherise Wadsworth. Please come to the podium. When you call and you have a problem with your bill, this is the gal that's answering the phone and fixing it for you. You know, she's irreplaceable. So. Mr. Casey Aguilar. Is Casey here? Here he comes. All right. Which is also the second, I'll say better half of Valerie Aguilar, that is our event coordinator. So that's a power couple right there. Thanks, Casey. Appreciate you. Melody Carter. Is Melody here? She's not. She is Outlaw Grounds also, and so she's a 10-year employee. We're lucky to have her. Last 10-year anniversary is Mr. Damian Alvarado, Alto Executive Chef. So obviously he wasn't executive chef the whole 10 years. This is a guy that's apprenticed, earned his position, and now is really doing a great job. A lot of clubs never get to 20-year anniversaries with people. We're very fortunate to have 2 20-year employees to recognize this year. Larry Smith. Is Larry here? All right. You can tell he's the biggest round of applause of the day. So I vote for Larry Smith to general manager. All right, let's get another round for Larry. Now, the only one that might rival that applause will be the next person. Frank Gonzalez, come up here, please. Frank, you're a treasure. Love you, man. All right, last recognition is Employee of the Year. Now, we have Employee of the Quarter, and then we have a vote in the board, and we go over it. We probably spent 2 or 3 hours trying to figure out who, because we got a lot of good employees. As you can tell, this beautiful smiling gal here, Ashley, come on up. Now, you used to see Ashley floating around here, and now she's found a home over at Outlaw, and she's part of the success story at Outlaw. So, all right. Annual meetings are generally a reflection of what's already happened. You know, we try to keep it in that scope. And you're going to hear from all these commissions and all the people that are going to speak after me about what we accomplished. And but I'm gonna go a different direction this year. I'm going to talk about now, and I'm going to talk about the future. Of course, you know, you can look out the window and see that we have a swimming pool that's emerging from that little space that I was told at the beginning it would never fit. You're not going to squeeze 5 pounds of you-know-what in a 2-pound bag. And so we have, and it was always kind of amazing to me that there would be a feeling that we would even start a project if we didn't already know it was going to fit. So, Kokopelli. We're going to have a town hall meeting next Wednesday that we're going to, in depth, talk about Kokopelli. When the club acquired Outlaw, I know it was a very contentious situation. I wasn't here, but I read every day. I get into files, and there's always stuff about the acquisition of Outlaw. I truly believe in my heart, if we wouldn't have acquired Outlaw, we would not be where we are and be the club that we are today. So, but I respect the people that did not see that. You pay dues to have an opinion. And I'm going to get back to that a little later. We have upcoming needs at Outlaw. That little clubhouse is not meeting the needs of our membership today. There's days where people cannot get in there and participate in events that we have over there. Now, I can assure you, and we'll get into financial vision, that there will be no project brought to you before that's paid for. If we do acquire Kokopelli, which, you know, in my opinion, and I don't have any chicken wire in front of me, so if you want to get up and throw something, it's going to hit me. I see it as a positive acquisition, like Outlaw was in the past. Now, I know there's people out there that don't see it that way, and I respect that. And again, we're going to get into that a little bit later. There are additional needs here at Outlaw. We voted down a golf course renovation a few years ago. Just because you don't do it doesn't mean the problems go away. Part of the reason that I think the Kokopelli acquisition is very positive is that we'll have the ability to do work on our golf course when the time is right. And when you decide we do it, it's not going to be my decision, nor these fine people that serve you. Those questions will be brought to you for your approval. But I know we've canceled a tee box renovation for the back nine, and one of the reasons was the feedback that we got from people that were not happy with the interruption of how they use the club. It's kind of interesting. You could take Kokopelli's front nine and our front nine and effortlessly create an 18-hole course half and half. You can't go over on the back nine and renovate that back nine without closing it. There's no lateral, temporary tee box opportunities. Everything is forward. It just wouldn't work. So, we have that need. When we built the pool and knew we were building the pool, and you guys voted for that twice or maybe 3 different times. And anyway, that's another story. We were going to turn the old fitness center into a 19th hole. If you do what I do for a living and read the reports and are privy to the education that I go to even at my age, the highest grossing square footage in a country club is the 19th hole. Because you guys like to drink and you like to eat while you're drinking. And so everybody says, well, we already got a bar. There's already problems with large golfing groups that come in and commandeer a lot of the bar, and people that are coming in that want to come in and use the bar for its intended. And it's intended for the golfers too, don't get me wrong. So there is, in the growth in the future of this club, there will be a need for that space at some point. But it won't be, the 19th hole won't be back in the fitness center. We have a greater need for office space and storage. We've got people, if you walk around this club, you'll look into closets and there's somebody sitting there in a desk, you know, or we got 2 or 3 people in an office and you're trying to do work and there's conversations going on, and I don't know how they do it, but they get it done. So we're going to start the plan, but the plan will come to you. Now, there could be that project that will be brought to you in conjunction with finishing what we've already got, because the need is pretty great. But the building of additional space for a 19th hole in the proper place and built for that specific purpose will not come before you until we've finished what we're already doing. You think I like to have all this going on and all the vitriol back and forth that goes with it, it's not pleasant. The financial vision of the future, if I am as your general manager, and I will counsel the new board, existing boards, hopefully there'll be more boards before you either tell me it's time to go away or I decide it's time to go away. I will not support any projects to be even considered other than, and that's not going to be a big dollar project, the offices, until we've paid for what we've got. I want to have enough reserves in the bank to not get into the position where we were forced to replace an asset because it was no longer viable. And so timing, in my position, I try to learn from what's going on, not ignore it, contrary to some people's belief. So, and you have to, and I'm not, that is not a negative, you pay dues to have your opinions. Covenants and deed restrictions are on hold. Mostly because, you know, there's a pretty daunting part of this as far as identifying all property owners, everything that we willingly have been instructed to do in going forward. And so that's not the issue. The issue is it's very cumbersome. We also, in my opinion, need to do a little more work with unification of subdivisions, at least for Firewise. If all these other subdivisions don't follow Firewise, is it really going to be effective to have a Firewise certification if your property backs up to somebody that doesn't have to be? You know, to me, it's a little bit of the cart and the horse. So we got a little work to do. I think, as you can tell, yesterday, everybody was like, here we go again. It's not a matter of if it's going to happen. It's a matter of when. And we've got way too much invested. You guys, your property values, the value of the club. This isn't a, you hear on TV now, a Republican or a Democratic issue. This is a community issue. Same thing with short-term rentals. Your opinion on that is valued, but there's some things that have to be done before we go down that rabbit hole too. So when we orientate people and I go talk to them, the first thing I do is stick out my hand and say, welcome to the family, because that's what we are. It's gotten to a point, though, to a certain extent, we've become a little bit dysfunctional. Now, my wife's family cannot have a family reunion because there'll be a murder during the family reunion. And I grew up in a Midwestern, Scandinavian, we had a family reunion, was the biggest to-do of the year, and everybody loved each other, or at least they acted like they did. So, culturally, there's differences. My wife is of Hispanic origin, and sometimes they kind of wear their emotions on their sleeves. So, your rights as a member are undisputed. But I feel that there is an appropriate way to voice your opinion. If some of the vitriol in this club doesn't self-correct, you'll have a deterioration of quality of people that are going to want to serve this club. Who wants to go up there and be a target? When we ask in orientation how thick your skin is, it should be, do you have an open mind and are you a listener? It's not warning people that you're going to have to wear your body armor when you're at the club. Now, when I first came to this club in 2014, there was a little bit of, and most of it's through age demographics, I also understand there's been a lot of change introduced to this club, and change is difficult. It's even difficult for me. I get up in the morning, I get 2 cups of coffee. If I only have one, the rest of the day is shot, you know. But if you have a conflict in opinion, first of all, board meetings are open. The commission meetings are open. The workshop is open. You can come. Some of that stuff in workshop is things that we only speak about in executive session. And there's some things that, you know, we had a finance committee meeting this month, and there's people that come, and I encourage that. I really, really encourage it. But we had to ask them to leave because we were going to be reviewing the annual audit for the first time, completed audit. And so it made sense that the commission, the finance commission people would be the first to hear it, but just people that are there to observe probably shouldn't hear it before them or at the same time as them or before the board of directors hears it. So there is protocol. I personally, and it received things slid under my door, asking me how much money I'm making off the pool, and you know, how much money you're going to make off of Coca-Pelli personally. But they're not signed. Now, I don't have a problem with the premise of what they're asking me. Sign it, come in, and we'll talk about it. Do you agree? Do you think that's proper as a membership? Respect. Respect the people that are running your governance. Should they respect you if you don't respect them? And I know it's not like a systemic issue, but respect is earned both ways. If the board acts in a manner that doesn't command respect, that's one thing. Membership that doesn't respond to with their wishes, that don't act respectfully, is another thing. So I've talked long enough. You know, we were going to shut this meeting, try to condense this meeting down with the format they were using, but I haven't worked a day since I got here. I'm not sentenced to be here. I choose to be here. Thank you. Thank you very much. I want to be here as long as you want me to be here. I don't have to work. God has blessed me. I do this because I love it, not because I get paid for it. Everybody wants to get compensated for what they think they're worth. And most managers' opinion of what they are worth or way exceed what they're really worth. And I've been doing this a long time. But thank you for supporting me. Thank you for allowing me to be here. Thanks.
Thank you, Tom. We all appreciate you. Next is a Q&A session for the Commission Chairman. Steve, you should be over here. Commission Chairman, Carolyn, you too. Myself, Tom, and the other board of directors. And the microphone will be passed around and we will decide who will respond to your question. Questions? Does anyone have a question? Where? Oh. Could we get a microphone over there? Thank you. Thank you.
Our auditing firm has to get back to work in El Paso, so we're releasing them early.
Sometimes people don't say thank you when they should. I thank Tom, I thank the board members for what all they're doing, but more than that, I thank them for reconsidering the Century Club membership for those of us who are over 70 and have been members over 30 years. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other?
Hey, I'm a new member, just joined.
Hey, welcome.
When I was reading through the documents, it said the new covenants would go out for a vote to property owners, and then there was a date on there. As a new member and a property owner here, will I get to vote on the covenants?
If your property is subject to the unified covenants right now, you will. There are, and Tom alluded to this a few minutes ago, the outlaw properties are not subject to our covenants, and there are several subdivisions within Alto that are also not subject to the covenants. We'd like to have everyone join and combine. And if you go to the office and you talk to Charisse or Maggie, they can tell you whether your property is subject to the covenants. Oh, yes?
Sounds confusing, but
Scott,
thanks.
Scott Shaver is telling me that your property is subject. Scott, you could have kept me from babbling and just told me that at the beginning. So yes, then you will have the right to vote. What's your name, sir?
Paul Jones. Paul Jones.
Welcome. Any other questions?
My name is Richard Zelt. I've been a member here since '98.
Hi, Richard.
And I just want to thank the board and Tom and all the staff. Since I've been here, it wasn't really a lot of fun being a member of this club back in the late 90s, early 2000s. But I just want to say to the members of this board, this club, we got to start respecting our board members. It's a voluntary position, and I've talked to Tom about it several times about these board members being attacked while they're trying to have dinner and in public, and I think it's a crime, and we need to put a stop to it. That's all I have to say, and thank you, board members. And if proof of the pudding is, look how many board members resigned this year. That shouldn't be happening. Think about it.
Thank you, Richard. And I can assure you that the board members do respect the membership, because that's what this club is all about. Next question.
When we started with the swimming pool and fitness center, it was going to be $4 million. Then it went to $7.5 million. Now the interest rates have gone up substantially this year. So how much more is it going to add to the $7.5 million with the higher interest rates?
I'll defer to Ken Wall, who's head of our construction commission. I may have misunderstood the question. If the question is what is the total cost going to be, it is still going to be below $8 million, if that is your question. Was that your question, sir?
No. The question was, what, with the higher interest, what's the extra financing going to cause the cost to be?
Well, since the term loan may go for several years and it's capped at, is it 8 or 8.25%? 8, and we're almost there now. It's probably not going to add a whole lot to our pool. And in fact, our goal, the loan goes out for 7 years. Our goal is to have this paid off in 3 years. Next question. Yeah, they'll get you a microphone. Bobby will bring you one.
I am so sorry if this has already been addressed. I came in like 5 or 10 minutes late. My daughter will kill me if I don't find out when the estimated completion of the said pool and fitness center. Thank you.
Now that's a question for Ken Wall.
We're pretty certain that October, sometime in October, should be the completion of the project. It was originally hoped to be done by the middle of July. They got time extensions for weather above and beyond normal over the winter, and they're actually going to be probably a couple months behind that schedule. So October of this year.
Thank you. Other questions?
Over here. My name's Mickey Richardson, and I've been a member here since '97. And I would like to also interject the thanks to the board. I think that we are today what we are because of the outstanding leadership that we've had over the years with the board and the people that sacrifice their time and effort to us. I do have one dumb old Texas question though. How are we going to pay for this beautiful Taj Mahal over here? How is it going to be paid for?
Well, since I'm
without assessments.
Well, since I'm not from Texas, I can't answer your question. Yeah, this will be here. This will be paid for. We are dedicating $300,000 each year to our capital budget. The remainder will be paid for with transfer fees. A couple years ago, we raised the transfer fee to $15,000. A portion of this is being allocated to capital projects. Last year, our transfer fees amounted to about $1.6 million, $1.7 million, if I'm correct. Is that right? In our worst case scenario, because I tended to be more conservative than some of the other board members, I figured that at $700,000 to $700,000, which is about less than half, that we would be able to finance the pool. And the way it looks, it's not going to be an issue. You're welcome.
Hi, my name is Marty Cope, and I just want to say the board has done, and Tom, a remarkable job. To have everything that we have with the dues that we have are just incredible. I mean, Wink and I belong to a couple other clubs that are 5 times as much, some of them more than that. And this club, it just keeps getting better. You never have a dull moment. We've got concerts to come to. If you love a good concert, come. If you don't want to, don't come. But y'all have done a tremendous job, and thank you so much.
Thank you. Bobby, there's a question over there.
One more thing.
Sorry.
Every time they add something to this club, our property values are going to get better and better.
Yeah. Thank you.
And I don't think you can look anywhere across the nation and find a club with all these amenities for this price.
Thank you. There was one right over there.
Hi there. I'm a relatively new member, so one of the things I look about and wonder is our water. You know, we don't have a separate water commission. I don't know that we need one, but when we're dry like we are now, where is our water situation? How do we feel good? Do we feel good about it, et cetera, just so that we know for ongoing operations we can meet the challenges?
I'm going to ask Tom to respond to that question.
Very astute question. Thanks for asking it. In 2006, there was a municipal water district formed for Alto. To make that work, the club leased all their water rights. I think it was 120 acre feet. Les, is that correct, do you think? Okay, pretty close. So that the individual meter fees for the people out here would be within a range that was reasonable. Over at Outlaw, it's a different situation. There are domestic water rights and then there are irrigational water rights. The problem in the past has been how much water we could get out of the ground over there, because there is a percentage of the acre feet that's available, dedicated to either side. But part of the problem was we couldn't get the water out of the ground fast enough. So the first solution over there for water was to, if you play Outlaw, you see that additional lake over there, 6 tee box. So that was, I don't know, is Glenn still here? What was the additional water storage that we acquired with that?
The new lake on 6 provides us about 5.5 million.
Additional 5.5 million gallons of water, which is almost 12 days of water, just for that additional. Now, we also deepened the wells over there, and we're getting, how much are we getting on the course now?
Well, I've put more this year than I ever have. I'm putting about 385 to 425 a night. So this time last year, in retrospect, the number 6 pond was dry, and the number 7 pond had about a half a day.
Come on up here, Glenn.
Oh, well, rats, I thought I was loud enough, Tom. Y'all can hear me yelling at y'all out there, right? No, so the water situation at Outlaw is outstanding this year, thanks to the wells being operational mainly. So we have 3 wells that run 24/7 most of the time. Now, we still do have to take care of the Outlaw Property Owners Association. Matter of fact, we're filling their tank today right now. But so I use about 385 to 420 a night down there. And this time last year, our number 6 pond was completely dry, and our 7 had about a day's worth of water in it. So we're way ahead at Outlaw, but now Alto is a totally different situation because of the tank that they had to take down this year to provide the homeowners water. They're not able to provide us enough water. And that's why you see both of these ponds down. But hopefully, we can get through the next 2 weeks before it starts getting dire. But so always the months of May and June are a little bit tough. So going into the future depends on what the build out's going to be. We need more information from the water company here to see. But and we also have a turf reduction plan for Alto to save a little more water, also to keep greens tees playability in the fairways better during the unprimed time of the years, if you will, because we know when it starts raining, everything comes screaming back and everybody forgets about the water, right? So I'm glad that we have this annual meeting during the dry time of the year so you can see the stressed out part of the golf course, right? Yeah. Is that good enough?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
All right. Ms. Massey.
For those of you who don't know me, my name is Terry Massey. I have served on the board, Greens Commission, Finance. So been around the club for a while. My husband and I have been together here 23 years, and he's probably been here since the mid-'80s. So had a lot of experience here at the club. And I want to say thank you to the board and all of the commission members. It is a lot of time and a lot of work, and we thank you for your services. One question I have, I'm probably ahead of myself, but with Kokopelli, and I know we're going to have a meeting next week, some of my concerns with Kokopelli, I think it would be a good asset for our club. But one of my concerns is the staffing. I know we have a lot of challenges here. We have a base of 8,000 or 10,000 people, and we've always had challenges in getting sufficient staff. And we've been challenged to get sufficient staff for 2 clubhouses, 2 golf courses. Will we be able to manage 3 golf courses and 3 clubhouses?
Great question, Terry. Thank you. The acquisition of Kokopelli, or the potential acquisition of Kokopelli, has been a conversation for 10 years, maybe. Serious discussions for 5 years. Okay. 4 years. Because I know when I was here in 2014, I would participated in the performa of acquiring, and that was probably more behind the scenes than something that was really being brought to you. So, in my mind, I've been thinking about it and working on it for 10 years. So, but I appreciate you. I want this to be accurate. Now, we have the H-2B program. It's at our discretion on how many people we bring in. It's kind of limited to how much housing we have to a certain extent. Right now, we actually have a house that we're using for the band to stay in instead of paying for hotel rooms. So we can handle more people with our current housing. We ask these people in their third year if they're interested in becoming a full-time working permit for the United States. And we evaluate these people. And part of the evaluation is they have to prove to us over 3 years that they are actually who they represent themselves to be. There's 2 young men in the kitchen that we've already at the end of acquiring their legal status. There is 4 in the front of the house that we're almost done with because they have proved that they are who they say they are. Kitchen staff, Charlie, who was the chef there, is currently working here. So the table has been being set for a number of years on the potential acquisition of that club staff-wise. The people in my mind, and I guess it's since I'm running operations, will be the one that'll, I'll make the decision, but I'll make it in conjunction with our governance and explain why that is my choice. Staffing, if I was going to depend on local people, I really probably couldn't acquire it and run it other than something that would require very little service. Walk up to a counter, order, scream out your name, come pick it up. I don't think you want that, you know, so. But no, there's a working plan to staff it properly. I didn't understand Kokopelli when I came here. Now I do. I believe, and don't take this personally, or, you know, I don't care where you live out here, Kokopelli is the elite subdivision in this in this triumvirate of properties. Outlaw to me was like, that's where all the big bucks are, that's where all the big buck people live. And then I found out that it's not totally the case. You know, there's people at Kokopelli that are very substantive, have been very blessed in their life. And, you know, I always called Kokopelli a sugar daddy club, you know, because sugar daddy paid the bills, you know, sugar daddy probably needed the tax write-off. But unfortunately, Mr. Sugar Daddy died. And there hasn't been a new sugar daddy that stepped up, really. I think there's always potential for that. I think the natural, and I'm getting off here, the natural acquisition is for Alto to take it over. I know there's substantive, there's people over there that they'll man up and they'll keep it going, but to me, that is just a temporary fix, in all due respect. The final solution of it is to be the clubs at Alto Lake to include Kokopelli, Outlaw, and Alto. So, there's water rights associated with Kokopelli that are in excess of what they currently use. In the asset purchase agreement, there is specific verbiage in there on how that works. There was a consumptive study over 12 years on what the actual use was over there. That use follows the property. The excess water rights have a value. It's been delineated as $400,000. But the state engineer will tell us if we can commingle those water rights with our water rights. Now, my recommendation to the board of directors is going to be, irregardless if they say that we can commingle them, that we need to go ahead and purchase them and put them on our balance sheet, because they're never going to be worth less than they are today. And so, to me, 10 years from now, who knows what those water rights will be, and who knows what the determination would be with different water circumstances on the state level. So, that ties in with your water question, I hope. And I'm sorry I got off track. Thanks.
Any more Yes, sir.
Morning, John. I hope you'll allow this brief introduction. My name is Pierre Peffer. I've been a member here since October of 2020. In January, I was appointed to a vacant seat on the county commissioner, so I'm now your county commissioner. I wanted to add a feather to this board's hat. I'm pleased to announce that the Bonita Station will soon be manned 24 hours with EMTs, full-time staff personnel. And that is true of Carrizozo as well. So whether you have a medical emergency here or you're in an accident on your way to Albuquerque or Santa Fe, help is much closer. And I want to underscore that John, his board, Tom, and Craig, this began in January when they were kind enough to invite me to a meeting with the Lincoln County Medical Center chief, with our county manager, and they made their voice heard. It was a need. And that message was delivered to the commission, and in this last meeting, the commission voted unanimously to create that service. So thank you for your input on that.
Thank you, Pierre. From what I can see, you're doing a hell of a job for us.
I appreciate that. If you'll indulge me one more comment. Sure. I've heard from my good friend, Jane Kahn, that what I call the last mile of communication regarding the fire didn't work again. It's been a concern of mine since I moved here. I can tell you that the first responders' communication is now excellent. A lot of money has gone into that. That fire was handled well. Federal and state participated. But we don't have the last mile fix. So my invitation is to the new board, those of you who know that you are, and those anxiously awaiting. I'd like to meet with you. I'd invite your input. Let's talk about this, and let's fix it for all of us. Thank you for your indulgence. Pleasure to meet all of you. I'll leave some cards over here on the table so you can reach me at any time. I'm pleased to talk to all of you. Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, Tom will read some of the questions you all sent in through the emails.
All right, we very, I hope very politely asked people if they would review this information, and they had questions that we would entertain their question, read the question in the meeting, and then we actually answered the questions individually to the people because I felt like they took the time to ask the question, they should get a response. So, and I'm going to kind of, some of the stuff, the questions were redundant, and some of them are more in line with response at the town hall meeting. I know we've kind of preempted some of that stuff in the town hall meeting, but one of the questions was, okay, I was told that we lost money in the 2022-23 concert series. The answer is correct. About $107,000. And then how can you have a budget going forward that shows a positive? How can you magically make that happen? And it wasn't put that way, but when you're in my position, you introduce something for member enjoyment. There's a learning curve. And I take total responsibility for the loss. But the loss was just contributed to the cost of the events, the expense of the events. It didn't factor in the enormous amount of food and beverage revenue that we got, and advertising revenue that we acquired. So, but I take the loss for what it is. Year to date, at the end of June, we'll be somewhere between $45,000 and $50,000 to the good, with the same reporting parameters. How did that happen? We had 22 concerts previous year. Too many. But you don't know what the market will bear until you stress it. So, lesson learned. We based ticket sales on 300 per concert. We had concerts that were too late or too early in the year, which didn't perform at that level. And so we made those adjustments. Now this year I priced everything at 200 tickets. The viability of the concert and the expenses are based on how many seats we have, the cost of the event, the main act, the cost of the opener, any hotel rooms, the food that we feed them while they're here. If we put them in a house, the housekeeping after they leave to get the house back right is all included. So we've learned, I've learned, and that's how come there's a change in that equation. Other questions having to do with the financial statement, regarding the statement and discrepancies between the financial, our financials and the audited financials, is strictly classification. If you look at the bottom line number on the audited statement and the bottom line number in our internal, it's the same number. So it's just room rental for events like weddings and things like that. We classify it a certain way, but then the auditors consolidate some of this stuff into more broader categories. So that's kind of the answer that goes to that question. I owe the people that, to actually read the questions. For payroll purposes, why in grounds operation expense, wage and benefit at Outlaw more than Alto? The answer is, for payroll purposes, H-2B grounds employees were classified at Alto. However, they were used on both courses depending on daily needs. Again, a classification, not a discrepancy. All these questions are all pretty redundant. I want to thank the people who submitted them. Steve Shula, very astute questions. Thank you, Steve. Dave Lyons. I don't know if David's here. I think is David here? David was on, yeah, thanks, David. David was on finance for years and years and years, and has an inside look at things and answered some very, and I know we answered Dave's questions, and they were pretty much more detailed financially. That a lot of times when I talk about that kind of detail in a group this size, everybody's eyes kind of roll back in their head and they lick their lips, and I kind of, you feel like I lose them. But anybody that has wants to see the actual questions that were asked, it's not we're not trying to hide anything. We're not trying to glaze anything over. We have a lot of questions that we got that are really more appropriate for the Kokopelli Town Hall. So, again, thank you for letting me be the guy. God has blessed me, and I thank the good Lord every day. So.
I want to thank all the commission chairmen for being here. We had no questions this year. I hope that means you all are happy with the way they are running. In a few minutes, the board of directors will elect a president. Our board is well situated to continue the progress that we are making. As we look to the future, I believe we need to look both inside and outside our club for innovative ideas and listen to our members as they suggest new and different events and projects. Sometimes new things are intimidating, but as I said earlier, if we are standing still, we are not moving forward. I'm about to announce the new directors, but before I do that, I want to thank the 6 individuals that have been candidates to help oversee the operations of this club. These are Gary Bills. Want to stand up? Steve Shula. Tom Fox. Let's see where they are. Sharon Heileman. Sue King. And Stan Mathis. After this meeting is adjourned, the continuing members of the board and the newly elected directors will convene to the boardroom. Your newly elected directors are, and please stand up when your name is called, Sharon Heileman. Tom Fox. And Stan Mathis. Congratulations, and I will now entertain a motion to adjourn. Second. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you all.
Certainly made it easy on us. Thank you. For 3 hours to an hour and a half. Your leadership is invaluable. I appreciate that. I'm trying, man. You're succeeding. Well, I hope so. Use the damn ball. I'm going to. All right. I'm going to, man. Hey.
Hell of a job. You didn't need me to say anything, did you?
You were doing great. We appreciate it.
You got through it.
Yeah, I did. Because I was bawling like a baby.
Made me cry. We support you.
I know you do, but